Hey friends, it's Julie from Plan to Create, and it's no secret, I love stamping in my journals, and I love collecting a variety of inks to sprinkle color throughout my pages. In this video, I'm going to walk you through my whole collection of inks while I create swatch sheets. And swatching out your stamps onto the paper that you use on a regular basis is really helpful so that you can get a true representation of how it's going to actually appear on your pages. I pull these out to help match up inks to different stickers, markers, or anything else that I'm adding to my journal pages. The three main brands I'm going to highlight in this video are the Stamp Market, Pinkfresh Studio, and Katherine Pooler. I believe in that order, but I promise you this is a pretty scattered video. It was 5 different segments, so trying my best to pull it all together for you guys. I would love to hear in the comments what brands you love, if you have a specific color you love, and maybe some of your favorites are some that I already have. So please let me know. Okay, we're going to jump right in and I'm going to kind of explain a little bit of what I'm doing here. I make a spot for every color that is available. So I use these kinds of things like the label sheets or this nice Color Crush sheet that she sent along. It has all the colors. So then I basically hold a spot just in case I want to add that color later. I don't have to redo the entire sheet, but I definitely like this one is geared towards 2024. It's kind of my cover, if you will, for my 2024 creative journal. So I'm going to go ahead and tuck this back on my shelf, and then I'm going to just create a page that I can travel from year to year. So I will have this as a reference going forward. This will be for the Stamp Market, which I will probably come up here and stamp, just make it a little bit more official. So that's these guys, and then these are all the labels, and so I have these colors included already. I'm going to stamp them out here and then just kind of hold place. If I want to add any of these other colors, I will be able to add them to my sample sheet. So let me kind of get started. I just am using a smallish circle that I grabbed from a random set. I think it was like an alphabet set that had a dot. I mean, any will do. So you can see I got started. Yes, I just recently re-inked my bubble gum, so it was really juicy. This particular ink pad is called a foam pad, and if you look at it, it's very squishy, and if I go to stamp up my ink, I'll try to look at that, you can really push in, and can you see how like close I get, and I can really get down in there. And then if you'll notice, like my block has gotten orange throughout it. See that? So that is the risk, I guess you would say, of the foam pad. So this is a foam pad. I will say it feels really grabby, it feels really good, and if you just lightly tap, you can be careful and you don't have the issue. But just something to consider. If you're super heavy-handed and you're not mindful, it is easy for that to get all over your ink, and then when you go to stamp sometimes, if you rock it a tiny bit, you're going to just show up with extra ink where you don't want it. So I just mentioned that just kind of as a heads up thing. I'm going to actually just be quiet. I'm going to go through these colors, and if there's something to note, I'll mention it. But all in all, I think it's just fun for you guys to get to see the colors come to life. I'll try to have the covers on here so you can kind of see the colors, but if you had any questions, let me know. I definitely was excessive with this. I feel like I have a lot of the Stamp Market colors, maybe more than I need. I'm trying to be a little more selective with my Pinkfresh Studio collection. But if they were to want to send me all of the colors to have me sample them, I would always be like, yeah, do it. Okay, we're gonna keep going. So when I have stamps like this, Dijon, Curry, they're just a little bit maybe juicier. So another thing that I've mentioned before, and I will mention again, is you can take extra ink off of the pad by directly stamping it to paper. It's kind of this like, do I do it, do I not? They're going to dry out a little bit over time just anyway. So, you don't want to get it to the point where then, oh no, now it's too dry. It's kind of a game. But if you find that it's just going to, pool up like that, this one didn't come through the page or anything. Obviously bubblegum is one that I probably most need to address. But it leaves for a little bit of a different mark because maybe it isn't being evenly distributed here on this pad. I'm not entirely sure why it's leaving like that bubbly mark. But just pointing that out, not because it's a huge issue, but just an issue. Some of these also, if you watch them, they may come back and dry differently, but begonia is pretty dry, and you can see the little dotty dots there. There's no lemon curd here on this, bummer. Okay, she just didn't save room for that, or it's just not on here. Maybe it's, oh, I do have a few of the newer sets that maybe don't show up here. This lemon curd is pretty, but it's also kind of under, like it's hard to see how, I'm gonna show you on a spare piece of paper here. It's not a bright color per se, or it may, okay, So it's super bright, that's what it is. And I don't find myself using it a ton, but that's a bummer. I don't have room for it particularly here. I could kind of do it off on the side. It's gonna bug me, but I might do it just for, it's kind of an add-on. Okay, we'll make that work. I feel like if I go around, because there are some drier, some less dry, maybe that helps spread it out a little better. Not sure. I'm usually in a huge race. Like if I'm stamping, I'm not very careful. I should be more careful, but I am a little bit quick. I just like to get the job done quickly. Sometimes I don't hold it down long enough for the ink to even transfer. I mean, that has definitely happened for me before. Okay, so I have this other color, Meadow, also in that category where it doesn't really have, I'm gonna do it up here. I really like that Meadow color. That matcha always shows up a little bit mintier than I want it to. I want it to be a little bit more of a sagey color, but then I guess you have this fresh mint, which is super minty. It's a pretty color. I really like that at Christmas time, kind of as a twist on green. Sea glass, that's another one that I have really been a fan of. And you can see these all start to look really similar. Those are very similar. You know what, I don't have Pacific and Poolside, and I'm thinking I don't want those, but I do have Cornflower and Cerulean, which are two that are not included on that sheet. I love that color. And that's another fun one too. See, those colors do not look the same to me at all. So that is why I like to stamp these out. Because I always think that those ones are going to be a little bit warmer than they are, and there's not. Okay, we've got Plum. Again, same thing. That's kind of like a blue. I thought that this looks like a warmer purple than that ends up being. Okay, so we're running into another thing where I don't have the party pink. Let me look at them. I don't think I'll want those, or fuchsia. So we'll do tea berry and soft berry. In fact, I'm actually going to set these aside because they're kind of going with some colors I want to use for November. Those two are pretty. Like, these are pretty. I'm going to leave those out. So I will stamp out here the Stamp Market, but I want to do it with some official, I don't want to write it, I want to stamp it. So I will do those later, and let's move over. I don't have very many of these guys, the Pinkfresh, but I have a few. Okay, so these are a harder thing. Even if I push really hard, the acrylic black really doesn't interact. Something to mention about these, they are very fast drying. I think sometimes I need to hold them down for an extra second just to give them a chance to transfer. Sometimes I'm rushing through it. They're juicy. I kind of want to... It's not that bad, honestly. I thought it'd be worse. Berrylicious. Ooh, real dark. That was a dark red. I wasn't sure on that one, but I don't really have like a lot of reds. This one I feel like I'm always drawn towards, so I definitely have this color probably already covered in my Stamp Market ink, but had to try it. And I do want to mention that these do ink up really, really dark and kind of swatchy, but they often dry differently, so you have to give them a minute. The dye inks are just a little bit different. Hey guys, dang it, my battery ran dead while I was stamping out the rest of these colors. Super sorry. I think maybe I had gotten to like Berrylicious, Passion Fruit-ish. So I'll quick flip you over, kind of let you see. Again, I do feel like the camera picks these things up a little bit more severely, but I can, with my own eyes, definitely see a few of these colors. So I feel like that's more of a juiciness factor than it is a problem with the ink. I can definitely stamp those off and probably get a slightly softer color. But just to run you through, this is like the bay leaf, citron, olive, key lime, grassy knoll, and fresh pear, which, hold on, I just wanted to show that I have these guys, these 4 in a set. This is how they often sell their colors, is in sets of 4. So you can buy individual big ink pads, individual, I don't know if you can get individual minis. Maybe they only come in groups of 4. So it's kind of a fun way to test out a few colors at once, and I don't think that I will upgrade those. I don't really see a need for that. I'm able to use the smaller ones if I want. Other colors, sage, storm, and then I've really been loving this espresso and gathered twig. They're really similar though. I definitely bought the set of 4 of these larger pads, the dough and warm buff, and then I got the Misty Coast, which this one I felt like stamped out a little pink here, but it's really just a nice neutral. I am just curious right now, and I want to see how this warm buff compares to the Sandcastle. Okay, so Sandcastle is a favorite that I've used for a long time from Katherine Pooler. It's really similar, definitely in this family with the dough and warm buff. So some of that is kind of a bummer. I end up, testing these out and then come to find out, oh shoot, I already had a color really similar. That's a bummer. One of these days I would consider like putting all of my colors in order of like the rainbow and kind of testing to see where I have overlaps and if I have a favorite and weeding those out. But it's just kind of a project for another day. I'm not feeling like I have storage issues. Like if I run out of space with my storage, that's something I might consider doing versus just buying more storage. I might actually pare down. But for now, I don't mind having a variety. And if I have some overlap, like you can see here, Lime Ricky and Grassy Knoll, pretty similar. But there's different applications for each one. Maybe I feel like using a felt pad once, or I don't mind using the foam pad. So sorry, just kind of jumping in here after the fact to point out the fact that I did indeed run out of battery and I didn't want to leave you guys hanging. Also came back through, since I had previously shown you the pages, and stamped out the Pinkfresh Studio, Katherine Pooler, and the Stamp Market just to make those pages a little bit more official. I think I had already done this, the close to my heart label, if you will. So these are a great resource. I will carry on with the rest of the video though. Okay guys, I am here a few days later. I put an order through scrapbook.com for these Katherine Pooler inks. I wanted to add several of these spa collection colors. When I look at the colors I currently have, I have a lot of the clear brights. I already have quite a few of the party collection from Katherine Pooler in the minis, so I will pop through those as well after I finish this one. But I just felt like I wanted to have some of these more muted colors that she offers here in the spa collection. So let's just kind of dive in. I have a sampling. I do not have all. And I just thought I would try to add some of these colors that maybe I don't feel like are represented already in my collection. I will show you guys really quickly that she offers these really cool charts, and so I just used this to write down all of the colors kind of in this order. And I started here with the reds. It moves into like red orange, orange, orange yellow, yellow. So it's really cool. Obviously you can like print out another little piece that you can then move around and try to find some of these color combinations. I feel like that's really awesome to offer. And like I said, I have a lot of holes in this collection, but you gotta start somewhere, right? So here I am. Make sure I know what I'm doing here. This is a shea butter. These are more like the Stamp Market in that they are a foam pad, so they are a little squishier and you just have to lightly tap on top. Try to get a good coverage. Some of these are probably pretty juicy. They do come to you quite a bit. Look at me. I'm not even going to try that. I don't think I would get that on my paper, but just to be safe, I'll start over. Ooh, pretty. Nice teal. And how are we doing so far? Yeah, so even though it's really dark, it technically does not really shadow through. The camera will pick up on it even more than the real life. So if you see anything, it truly is exaggerated with the camera. Here we have Hot Tub. This is one of my favorites. I have a mini of this. I left it in Alaska 'cause I'm trying to divvy out my inks between the two places. So I left some of my minis from Katherine Pooler up in Alaska. Ooh, deep blue. That's beautiful. A little nervous on that one. Those are definitely darker, but would be super safe with this hemlock and oak paper. I've purchased an olive and archer, and I feel like that is something I'm considering using for 2026. I got a B6. I thought that that would be a fun size to journal in. So these inks I would have like no issue probably in that nice thick paper. And it would be fun to use some of the darker inks for sure, because they definitely make a statement. I've been enjoying using like a dark espresso instead of always black. So that juniper mist is almost like an alternative, you know, a black, a navy, and a dark brown. Really nice, just neutrals that you can use. This glacier looks like a really deep color, and I love how muddy it is. It's like, is it gray? Is it blue? It's pretty. Yeah, that's gorgeous. Just a little bit warmer than the juniper mist. Okay, and then I think I skip over here to verbena. Trying to force myself to stay like one extra second because I just think I want to lift off so quick. Sugared lavender, I love this warm color. Sparkling berry, another really pretty, like a little bit warmer of a pink. That's really juicy. I could probably stand to stamp that off a teeny tiny bit. Let's see, did it? No, so we're still safe. Like the darkest one so far seems to be kind of that Cove Blue. Interesting. Juniper mist. Yeah, the Cove Blue. So it could be just that it's a little bit juicier because it's certainly not darker than these, but it kind of came through a little bit more. So again, taking the ink pad, stamping it off onto other paper can kind of help eliminate a little bit of that juice depending on the paper you're using. If you're stamping onto thick white cardstock, you don't want to do that. But if you're trying to keep it from running through a planner or a journal, you may consider it. Oh, and Sandcastle is not included on her charts because it's considered a neutral, but I just wanted to have it on here. So I added it at the bottom. It's a really good neutral. It looks like so sparse, but I do love these colors. I think they're really pretty. So those will be fun ones to add in. And then I'll go through my party collection as well. I have these in a drawer kind of stored with like purples, pinks, and reds. It's kind of like I'm storing my stickers and my inks in a similar fashion. These may just, I'm going to be all over the map on these because I'm just pulling them out and doing what I'm going to do here. So forgive me, it'll be a little out of order probably. When I was doing mild liner matchups years ago, I had a mild magenta, I think it is, and this Sweet 16. Mine says Sweet 16. This says 16 candles. I'm doing this. 16 is the, I'm not sure. Maybe she changed that color. I have an old one, perhaps. Okay, then I'm going to go bump up to Samba. Up here. I love that red. It's so pretty. It's not too orangey. It is a red orange, but not too bad. Coral Cabana is another orangey red. I love coral. Okay, so I need to re-ink my Coral Cabana. I've definitely daubed that one out to oblivion. It would definitely show up darker than that. It should, but I need to buy a re-inker. Let's see, Be Mine. Where are you at? Towards the end here. It's a Girl is more up here. So maybe I'll kind of store them like that, that, and Be Mine kind of right here. Then we do It's a Girl, Samba. So kind of changing the order of those to match up with her color wheel. Then we're moving into more of the orange into green. Tiki Torch. Ooh, yeah, I'm pretty sure I, again, could stand a refill on both of those. Buttercream. I don't think that we have this one in the collection anymore. Okay, so I'll just hold off on that. It's a really light color. Garden Party is there. Definitely brighter, vivid colors. And then the only other two I have are Aquatini and Crushed Velvet. I feel like maybe the Crushed Velvet is on this guy. Yeah. It's really deep purple. And then the Aquatini is, I'm pretty sure, here. So gosh, you can see she has so many colors. Like I feel like I have a lot of colors and I haven't even really made a dent here in this. And there's definitely a part of me that feels like I need all the colors, which is a lie. I do not need all the colors, especially when I have a lot of other colored inks that are probably covered by those colors. But I'm a little bit of a collector when it comes down to it, I'm not gonna lie. So that kind of gives you an idea for how these show up here on the Hemlock and Oak. Like I said, you can kind of see that shadowing underneath, but really not. It's really, you know, ink friendly, this paper is, which makes me just love it. Okay, so I do have these kind of have on hand. If I ever just wanted some color inspiration, I could probably start to kind of figure those things out. I'll keep it over here. But other than that, I'm really happy to have these little cheat sheets, and now that I've like established these, I do find myself really referring to them, because a lot of my colors, especially now, like when I'm looking for a yellow, so for instance, if I pull out some stickers like this and I'm like, ooh, what inks will go well? I mean, I can try to put them up next to the inks and kind of see like, oh, how does that look? But it's a lot better of an idea to pull it down here. And, you know, I think that Dijon works really nicely there. The purple, obviously this pale plum, it was a selection, or sugar plum from the stamp market. It's funny, there is some overlap here on these names. But yeah, it's really nice to be able to just pull things up to the actual stamped images to see how they match up, don't match up. And I really do hope to get a few more colors in there. It'd be pretty. These do not come with a label on the side, so while I am going to store them here in one of my bins, these are from scrapbook.com. They make their own product and they sell them. They're really sturdy. I have several stacked up. But let's just see here. I've got, okay, we'll just do it in the order. That's kind of a bummer. So I am going to need to purchase her labels. The only other thing is that they each come with like 3 or 4 labels instead of just like, I like how the other ones came like a whole sheet of every color. Now I'm going to have to purchase like 4 labels for terracotta when I don't have 4 things to label. I'm not super happy with that. Berry, of course I have like 1 extra, but this one honestly is one that I kind of keep around as a neutral, so I'll probably just store it differently. I am going to want the labels on those because it's just such a easier way to track down the exact color I'm looking for. But they do store nicely in there, they certainly fit, and they'll just join the other colors here on my wall. Okay, I hope that that kind of just gives you a peek at some of the inks that I love, B, kind of the difference between the foam pad, the felt pads, and then also just maybe convinces you, yes, it's a good idea to stamp out the colors so that you can see them on whatever paper you're using. So if I did switch maybe to an Archer and Olive, then I would do the same activity basically in the back of my book, because it's just super helpful to see the colors. So I think that these, yeah, those colors are pretty. I like how rich they are. And then of course that just makes me happy because it's all filled out and colorful. So yeah, over time hopefully I will just continue to collect a few more of these colors. But like I said, it would be a smart thing for me to go through and kind of recognize like, wow, you already have a lot of these colors, and you know, maybe catching myself before I'm just duplicating another orange with an orange. You know, if I have an orange that I'm happy with using, I don't need to purchase another one. So that's why I'm kind of trying to keep it in check. This hot tub though, I do love how like muted that color is versus some of these other brighter, you know, these have a time and place, but so does this. So I felt like that's what I was really trying to do as I picked up these Katherine Pooler colors. It's just to kind of beef up some of those warm colors. That wild berry is kind of in this same family, but you can see that they're all a little bit different too. So I don't think there's too much overlap here. But I hope the video was helpful for you guys and gave you a chance to kind of maybe see some new inks. Let me know, you know, what catches your eyes, if one of those brands you use and have success with. I would love to hear about that. Or if you have a certain color in some of them that maybe you saw I didn't use and you'd recommend. I would love to hear anything about inks. I also will just quickly say I am a fan of dye inks. I know that there are other types. There's pigment and those rest on top of the paper, don't soak through. Fully aware of that. I just don't prefer using them. They're a slippery ink for me. I feel like the ink will slide on my page when I go to lay down my stamp, and it's hard for me to get a crisp image. It just always feels like it just, maybe I don't have a steady enough hand, I don't know. But it's just not my preference. So, you know, a lot of people try to suggest that for me if I'm worried about ghosting and whatnot. And I am aware of those, I just choose not to use them. So that's kind of where I sit with that. And kudos to you that can get it down and get it straight and crisp. That's awesome. I just don't seem to be able to. Anyways, I'm going to wrap that up and appreciate you guys watching. If you have any other ideas of other things you'd like to see, I currently have like little piles. So let me just show you, for example. Something I've been doing lately is when I purchase, you know, digital files or a product, I kind of start to pull out inks that I feel like will coordinate. So, you know, that's part of what I'm doing, is looking at those things. These are sort of the colors that I pulled out for this Everyday Explorers. I believe it's their November journaling kit, which I just switched to getting their digital format. I do love getting the one in the mail, but I'm very likely to print, and you know, I like to print multiples of the ones that I know I want to use a lot of, and it kind of eliminates that like, oh, I don't think I'll use those, which I haven't run into much with this kit. I do feel like she offers a really nice, versatile kit, but I'm talking about too much. But anyways, I've been doing this a little bit more lately, and then for instance, I'll share quickly my actual page this week. I kind of have just decided, oh, you know, hey, use this little kit. It might make your life easier. And so, well, I still have plenty of holes. You can kind of see how I'm using those inks alongside those products, and it's obviously really cohesive and kind of a fun activity. So I am doing little bits and pieces of that. I have 3 or 4 little piles on my desk right now with like stickers and inks that match, and I'm kind of hoping to maybe do that throughout the month of November. And then I actually I pulled this aside too, because it was more like for the gold star, and like this one I thought would go nicely. Obviously these go a little bit different direction, but I thought I would try to throw those in here this week too. So I've just been kind of playing with those, keep them out here on my desk, and creating little capsules, if you will, of like things that can match and work together. And I also just call it shrinking my stash. So I've thought of doing videos on each of those topics of like how to pull aside things from your own stash, kind of work them together. That's something that I've been trying to do lately. And then also just like creating things, you know, matching up some inks and products that work. And those are both things that I'm kind of having fun doing lately. Okay, I'm signing off. I've talked too much and I need to cut myself off. But thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for sticking through all the way. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to give me a thumbs up. And if you have not yet, please subscribe to stick around and see what else I come up with. All right, until next time, you guys, take care.